Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dennis. Welcome to Patina Code. Today, I want to address the Sportsters out there. Everybody with the 883 and the 1200 Sportster. I want to go over the difference between an Air Oil Separator and a regular catch can. There's nothing wrong with either. It's up to personal preference. I happen to be running an Air Oil Separator, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So we're going to jump right into this, and I want to explain the routing of the hoses. One of the most important things before we even begin is that if you go with this Moroso filter, there is the filter itself that you're going to want to pay attention to. See that little diaphragm right there? So it pushes up and it's held in by way of a snap ring. What's important is that you run the gases that are coming out from the combustion chamber to this side. You want to put it on the side that does not have the filter. So the gases will be dropping down in here. They'll fall into the little can that I just took off. And then as the air is sucked back up, the filter that's inside of here, there's a filter that runs up there. It will capture any of the vapor and the oil, separating that from the air, and the fresh air will come back and go up through the venturi, through the throttle body, and you should be burning clean air and not the blow by. So we're gonna get a look over the top. And I made a little diagram. We'll cut away to that, and maybe that'll explain it a little more as well. But you see up here, you have this one and this one coming off of either one of the heads. They are routed together into a T. Then the single line comes down, and that single line is running. It's routed around, and it comes here, and it's dropping right here into the little can. All the cool stuff that happens. Air is being sucked back up. It hits this filter. It comes up, goes through here, and as I said, back up and through to the venturi where the throttle body is, and it should be burning clean air. It's really a pretty simple process, and it's pretty cool, actually. Okay, so this is my representation of the Air Oil Separator. Once you unscrew the canister, you'll be left with the top part. The top part is where the ports go into. As I said, it was not designed for the 883 nor the 1200 Sportster. It was designed for the other Harleys, so it would mount on the left side of the bike. Now, what you have to do, very important, when you take the two ports that come from the head that's carrying the blow-by, you want to make sure you route them to this side of the canister on the top, because there's nothing right here. All the blow-by goes in, and then what comes out gets hit here and trapped in the element, trapping all the air that's dirty with the oil and vapor, and lets the fresh air come out. So here's another little diagram. When you look at the top of the Air Oil Separator, once you separate it, this would be the top half that has the two threaded spots for the ports to go into. It looks like this. The filter element looks like this, and it's held in with a snap ring. The filter element is interchangeable, so you just remove the snap ring with snap ring pliers. This comes out, you change it, push it back up in there, reinstall your snap ring, and you're good to go. So remember, the clean air must pass through this in order for it to work. So we're going to go to the bike, and I'm going to explain what I was talking about the two ports coming out of the head, joining together, making a T, and going into this. And it's going into this side because there's nothing here. So all the blow-by goes down here, and then it gets recirculated. It hits this filter, and it traps all the oil and the vapor, exhaust vapor, and only lets the air, clean air, back out and into the motorcycle. So this thing's acting as if it's a PCV valve in your car. For those of you familiar with the PCV valve, and what that does is it ventilates the crankcase pressure and the blow by. So any combustion engine creates an explosion when it's firing, but then that explosion also leaves behind trash, which is the blow by. And what they like to do for these new age vehicles is route it back through the throttle body so that it can burn out through the exhaust and into the atmosphere. Back in the early days of engines, there was no PCV. There was just a tube to expel the aftermath of exhaust combustion, and it would just go into the atmosphere. Later on, they came up with the PCV, and it's routed the same way as what they've done here. The problem with that, especially on these little air-cooled V-twins, is that you end up with a bunch of trash in the jugs. A lot of carbon buildup, oil deposits, the vapor. It's nothing nice. If you want your engine to run and have a nice longevity, and the running mechanism parts, the mechanical parts that are in there, to stay as clean as they can be, you want to route these gases out and capture them. You don't want to do like they did factory. You had two tubes, you had one that went in, another one that went in. It would just blow it right back through and suck it through the intake, and then of course blow it out through the exhaust. The cool thing about this air oil separator is that when you undo it, there's a filter element in the top here that traps all that nonsense and just lets the air come back and return to the throttle body, and then it goes out as clean air. So what it's capturing, give you a look at this, and I take this off every so often because look at that. So imagine that. That's just the exhaust vapor, combustion vapor, but then you see the oil. So all of that would have been in there, but it's in here. So when you look underneath, you can see it's kind of gnarly, but the trash comes out through there, and boom, the fresh air, after it gets separated, goes back up, passes through the filter element that is up in here, and then it'll come back and it's running through the throttle body as it should be. And it's just, I hope, it's just clean air. So, as I said, I take this off after, I don't know, every couple, 3 rides, dump out the vapor, the water and oil, and then wipe out the oil, clean it up, then take some fresh oil, and like any seal, just put a light lubricating coat on the bottom side of the seal because you don't want to damage or tear the seal. They do make the replacement for that, but as long as you keep a little lube on it, you know, it will stay supple and not want to dry rot, crack, and then be messed up, and then you'll have to be getting a seal. This would be a good idea that if you order this setup, to get a seal just to have in case you end up pinching it or it does, you know, crack on you, or you misplace it. It shouldn't come off. It stays on there. You can take it off, but there's no reason to take it off. You just leave it up there, and like I said, you run a thin film of oil on the bottom side of it to keep it supple when you screw this up in here, because it gets captured right there. There's a lip. I know it's hard to see it, but there's a lip that it rides on. So that's what the air oil separator does. Separates the air from the oil. It'll capture this and then return the fresh air back up through here, and it'll just pass through the intake. You could run the external breather on there if you wanted to, but there's really no reason to. You can run the tube back up and through your throttle body plate up there. There's the part number for the Moroso air oil separator. You can go to Moroso's website, put that part number in, and it'll take you to this air oil separator. It comes complete with all the instructions. It comes with all of the equipment that you will need to fasten it to the bike, the barb ends, the hose, and the bracketry. I chose to modify mine to make it fit where I wanted it to fit. As I've said, it's not meant to go on the Sportsters, but you can make it work. I also modified the fittings. There was nothing wrong with the equipment that came with it. I just wanted to modify it a little bit more to suit my needs, and I'll give you a look at what I did as far as the mounting and the fittings to route the lines in and out of the air oil separator. It does not come with these. These are push connect fittings, and this is pneumatic airline, and it's got a high temperature rating, and it's stout. I work with pneumatic machine, and we run the best silicone polyurethane type pressure hose to operate the various machines that we have here. And that's why I went with the push connect fittings. So this a 1/4 by 20 thread pitch inside the cap here, and you could do the same thing. And if you want to release it, you just push in. Well, if I don't make a fool of myself. Anyway, you push in, and see those little teeth in there, they hold on to the line. So to reinstall it, you just push it back in. And it's there, it's not going anywhere. And then I just have it sitting there, and I'll push it back down so it's not rubbing up against the steel, and it'll hang a little bit. But I got enough line and all that stuff to where, you know, when I want to change it out, we can, and there's no issues. So here's the look at how it goes. This is how it's mounted. And in order to make this assembly work, because it wasn't designed for the 883 nor the 1200, the bracketry, I had to cut it and fabricate it to fit my application. And you see the 2 holes are going through the Vance & Hines mount for the air cleaner. But as I was saying, there's the tube that returns the clean air back, and it's running through the Venturi, and it goes there. If you look at my throttle plate, there's no oil or anything on it. Let's see what happens. Let's open the throttle plate. You can't really see down in there, but I can, and it's pretty clean. So that's the benefit of the air oil separator. And again, I had to cut and fabricate the bracket that came with it, but it works. Just take your time and do it, or maybe if you got a friend or something that knows something a little bit about cutting, welding, fabricating, they can do it. And that's it, guys. The next thing I want to show you is a pretty cool way to run your external oil cooler. Might be able to see, there's the adapter in there. That's an oil filter adapter. And the cool thing about that is that there are 2 pronged ends, they're barbed ends, to accept the hose. We're gonna go around to the other side. But what Harley wants you to do when you put on the external oil cooler is plumb it into the oil pump lines. And it comes with all the hardware. I bought the cooler from Harley Davidson, and it comes with all the hosing and the hard line to plumb back into your oil pump system and your return system. I did not want to do that. I did not want to mess with any of that down there. Me being a hot rodder, I knew there was an alternative, and that's what the oil filter adapter is for. So we're going to go around to the side where the external oil cooler is and have a look at it real quick. And you can see it's, you know, it's a slim job, but that's what Harley recommends for their bikes. They make some other ones which are just as good, but I wanted to keep my bike all Harley Davidson. With as far as aftermarket parts, the only aftermarket part on here that's not Harley Davidson is that oil filter adapter back there. So when you get it, you screw in the bung that comes with it, and it has the accepting threads for your oil filter. This is the standard Harley oil filter. It just screws on. But what you have, the barbed ends, as seen in the picture, are down there, and that's where you run your lines to your cooler. So you install the adapter, get your hose, get it drawn out, put it on the ends of the barbs, then install your cooler, and then run your lines up to meet, and then cut off what's necessary, and you just run them in. Put your filter on, you're good to go. There's 2 versions of the oil filter adapter for those of you who want to have a you know, a little more savvy read on your oil temperature, you can get the one that has the bung port for you to run a fan on your external cooler. If you have a different type one, Harley doesn't make one, but there's aftermarket companies that make them with little cooling fans to help cool it. I didn't deem that necessary, so we just ran with the standard one. There is a port that has to be sealed. It comes with the plug to plug it, but then you're gonna have to seal those threads to keep oil from leaking out of the adapter. It's quite a simple thing to do. And that's pretty much it. That's all I want to share with you guys. Just a couple cool things, a couple cool ways to update your Harley. As you can see, you know, everything that I put on the bike, it's all Harley Davidson, and I just have fun riding it. But I just want to go over that Air Oil Separator with you guys, and then actually show you the Air Oil Separator, since I am taking it off at this point to clean it out. And this is all aluminum. It's Moroso, man. So it's, you know, it's a good product. Like I say, I run them on my hot rods and stuff that we build. So we're gonna get this dumped out, get it cleaned off, then we're gonna take us a ride. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. So there is a big difference between an air oil separator and a catch can. The air oil separator separates the air from the oil and returns fresh air back to the engine. A catch can simply does that. It just catches all of the blow-by and then it's vented into the atmosphere. And that's cool. If that's how you want to roll, there's nothing wrong with that.